lessons that obliterate to camouflage a folly. Attempt a mental robbery, executed sloppily. The hypocrisy, this mockery, and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. Hopefully you can hear me well and everything is working correctly. Welcome to your Sunday night edition of Rogue Ways. I am excited to be with you guys tonight. I see we've got some people in the chat. I'm going to say what's up to Biggie Smollett. Nice to see you, Biggie. Thanks for saying hey and what's up. What's up, Dad Gummit? That's Leslie waiting, I guess. And I'm sure we've got some other people that haven't said hi yet. If you are around, if you're watching on Facebook, hop over to YouTube. If you would like to interact more directly with me and with other people, that's where the chat happens. D-Live, no sound? Shut up. This is connected to this. This is connected to this. This is connected to this. It's all connected. You can hear? Okay. So if you can't hear, I think it's just you. If anyone else can't hear, let me know. Sue can't hear. Sue, I don't know, maybe your volume's turned down. All my shit says it's working. Hello, hello. Yeah, it does. Sound is fine. Okay, good. Well, we're going to roll on. I'm sorry, Sue. I hope you get sound back. But what's up, Digital Apparition? That sexy man. We got Gnosis Gnome in the house. And Sue, I said your name, but I don't know if I said hi. So hi, Sue. And again, if you're on Facebook, that's cool. But if you want to interact, it's mostly going on at YouTube. So hop over there, YouTube Rogue Ways, and that's where we're all at usually. Tonight, I'm going to tell you about the abyss in my throat, in all of our throats, really. It's an interesting story, and it has to do with what a shitty, horrifying, and also beautiful, wonderful week that I've had, all wrapped up into one. So you guys in the chat are cracking me up. So, we're gonna talk about that. But first, I, of course, would love to show you these things. That's not the thing I wanted to show you first. First, I wanted to show you my site, rogueways.org, also known as CoreySharman.com. Both of them take you to the same place. You could read all kinds of things. Recently, I have To Be a Warrior. It's a short précis of a book called Shambhala, that I wrote. There's a piece called Time Travel, which is just a little poem. And my other piece, Fuck Christianity, is my most recent thing, and that is a piece about how Christianity seems to be the easiest religion to shit on if you live in the West. We have links to my Subscribestar here. You can link to old episodes of Rogue Ways, and you can check out my published works. All of them are available on Amazon, and that's what this page links you to. You can get Sine Curve of Aeons, my first novel. This deals with the yugas and the aeons of time as they progress and destroy humanity over and over and over again. But is anything kept? Is there anything that resists that destruction, that cyclical destruction? You'll have to read and find out. There's also the hardcover of that book available. There is also a Gypsy on the Res. It's a memoir. It's hilarious. It's irreverent. It's about a time teaching on a Native American reservation, which sounds boring, but if you read it, you'd be surprised. And a collection of poems called Mutable Realia. However, if you want to buy the book, hop over to the shop section of the page. And you can grab some Rogue gear here, sweatshirts, shirts, laptop covers, all kinds of stuff. You can buy some Orgonite pendants that I make. They're beautiful, stylish, and functional here. And if you click on Classes and Tarot, not only will you find the usual class offerings, finding your spiritual allies, psycho-spiritual protection from dark entities, guidance sessions one-on-one if you just want to chat through some stuff, and tarot readings if you would like some divining from beyond. And I'm having a sale right now, is what I really wanted to show you, on my first novel, Sine Curve of Aeons, and that's because the sequel to this book is almost ready to be released. And so in celebration of that, I want to offer this sale. It's $10 right now. So if you went to Amazon and bought this book, it'd be $15 plus taxes plus shipping to wherever you're at in the world. I usually offer it to you for $15 straight. That cuts out the shipping and the tax. Anywhere in the US, I will mail that to you for $15 flat. But right now, I'm going to mail it to anybody in the US for $10 flat. That literally makes me about 4 pennies off of this. So this, I'm basically giving it to you for free for me. This is the cost that I pay. I have to order these at about $6 a copy, and I ship them out at just under $4 a copy. So I want to give those to you. If you have been waiting for a time to buy this book, then do it now. This is the cheapest it's ever going to be, and I only have a few copies available at that price. It's limited to what I have in stock. So that's what I wanted to show you guys on the site. Oh my gosh, Steve, you already got your mug. That's amazing. I'm just looking in the chat, and I sent Steve a mug recently, and I can't believe it's already there. That's so cool. That's so fast. That's how fast it'll be if you order one through the shop. That was only a few days ago that I ordered it. I also want to suggest and hope that you guys come and support me. I have so many subscribers already supporting me on subscribestar.com/rogue-ways. But if you hop over there right now, if you have ever found any value in Rogue Ways, if I have ever given you anything that you appreciate, it would be awesome if you share that value back. I even have a $1 a month level. Anybody can afford that. I'm so grateful for the people who have hopped over the barrier from YouTube to Subscribestar to do that at the dollar level, and I've even got some at the $7, the $22, and the $55 level, and that is amazing. Each of those gets different perks. I give you pretty cool things at each level, so go check it out and subscribe today. Finally, if you go to patreon.com/JohnnyBravado, which I'm going to put in the chat for you right now, you can scroll down just a little bit until you see all this cool stuff, but am I on the wrong page? There it is. When you see the Rogue Ways logo, this is a free download for anybody of the song that you hear at the end of the show. A lot of people like this song. We got a lot of questions about it, and so he decided to be a gent and just offer it to anybody for free. You don't even have to be a subscriber. You can just come to this page and download it. So that song is rad, and if you want to do that, go do it. I suggest, of course, that you subscribe then at least the dollar level to show your appreciation of that beautiful music. So go check that out as well. And that is what I wanted to show you before we jumped in. I always like to waste a little time at the beginning so people have time to check it out and see that we're live. And also remind you of the cool things that we've got going on besides this amazing show that I love to provide for you for free. So we'll see who else has shown up today. You can call me Ray. What's up? Book rate postage should be cheaper than $4. However, they just raised it. It used to be $2 something, and now it's $3.33, I think, exactly. It's pretty fucked up. But I mean, it's not, because I don't want the postal service to fail, which is what they're telling us is going to happen for sure. And so I'm happy to pay $1 more if that's what it takes. But hopefully we don't lose our postal service. Steve Mercer, what's up? I said hi to you a little bit when we talked about the mug. This is like the first episode I don't have my mug, and it's the first episode you have yours, so that's kind of cool. Oh, good. Sue can hear. Yay, Sue. And everybody is happy that Sue can hear. Awesome. So good to see you guys. So yeah, I'm gonna just get started. I have an abyss in my throat. So this story is interesting, and it goes into some esoteric and interesting aspects of life and existence, and also some things that I myself have not figured out yet, and perhaps you can help me figure them out. So follow the clues with me and tell me any insights you have, because I would love to solve this specific mystery. It's very interesting. But it all started, who knows when it started, but I'm going to start at this point in time, which you may have heard me mention before on the show if you're an avid listener, but I've never told the exact story. But I basically lived with a group of guys. There were 6 guys and me in a house. So you can imagine how disgusting it was. It really was really gross. But we all lived together, and one of them was studying to become a massage therapist. Super cool guy. Going to Bastille, one of the coolest places to learn to become a massage therapist. And super in touch, super in tune guy. And you know, just like many professions, you basically have to get your like hours in. And so you offer people like free massages or free therapy or free, you know, whatever it is, so that you can kind of log like how many times you've practiced. So I've been lucky enough to receive the benefit of this a couple times in my life, but this was the only time I ever did with massage. So he had to give a certain number of massages, get a certain number of hours so he could, you know, have his practice in for his classes and stuff. So he asked me if I wanted a massage. I was like, of course. I have incredibly horrifying back issues. Since I was 16, I've had 2, you know, couple feet long titanium rods along either side of my spine. I have 2 slipped discs. I have 2 places in my spine that are broken and fractured and will not heal. And I have part of my hip carved out that they use to put around the metal in my spine, and so that like aches sometimes. And then I have my other hip doesn't rotate correctly, so super deformed and fucked up. I have very severe scoliosis, and that's what led to this surgery. And it was a life-saving surgery, so that's how bad the curves were, was that if we didn't fix it, it was going to like crush my organs and whatnot. And it's been a source of chronic pain for the rest of my life since then. So I was probably about 22 or something, I don't really remember. So I had very significant back problems already, and so if somebody offers you a free massage, it's like, of course I will take this free massage from you. Like, I'm a poor college student, I'll do anything. So I took the massage. I was laying there getting the massage. I'd had plenty of massages before, because again, when you have chronic pain like this, you quickly learn that you have to find ways to solve pain issues. And I want to do a whole episode on chronic pain someday, because that's its own fascinating, horrifying topic. But so lost my train of thought, but I was getting a massage and it was nice. That I had many massages before, so I kind of knew the drill, but getting a massage was really nice, whatever. He stops at one point and he isn't doing anything, and I figure he's like getting more oil on his hands or adjusting something or changing the music or whatever they sometimes do, and they pause. And so I'm just laying there waiting, my eyes closed, whatever. And I start getting this like pain in my throat, and I'm like, that's weird. And it felt exactly like if you have ever needed to cry, or like been about to cry, or been like withholding a cry and it's like it like balls up in your throat and it feels like heavy and like cloistered or whatever. It was very significant. It was significant enough that I like became concerned, and I was like, dude, something's like wrong with my throat, or because I wasn't sad. At no point did I feel like I actually needed to cry, but I had that same exact feeling there. And so I tell him this, and he says, oh yeah, well, I'm doing Reiki on your throat chakra. And I was like, huh? You're what? Doing what? Because I'd never ever heard the word Reiki before. So it's cool that my first experience with Reiki is, realizing that it was happening by the actual effects I was feeling without even knowing that this practice existed. So that kind of like proved to me that Reiki is a real thing that actually affects you in real ways, which is cool, because, otherwise I would have encountered it and been like, that's a bunch of bullshit. Screw this shit. That's how I am. I'm kind of, unbeknownst to many, a true skeptic, and I don't buy most things. So I instantly was like, kind of like believed in Reiki. I was like, well, fuck, something was happening, and he happened to be doing that right on my throat chakra, right? So I was kind of like, well, why are you doing that on my show? Like, what are you doing? And he explained, I'm doing all of your chakras. That's kind of what Reiki is, and I just happened to be on your throat right then. And I was like, okay. He's like, you have some like major energy like blockages and shit in your throat. And I was like, oh, like, what does that even mean? And he's like, well, it could mean a lot of things. It could mean that you don't like speak your truth enough, and that was definitely true at that point. It could still be true at this point. It's probably true for most of us at most points in our life to some level or another, right? We're not always all speaking our truth all the time. I hope we all do. I want us all to. I aim to always do it more and more. I definitely do now more than I did then. But I definitely didn't then. So okay, I guess I have like a throat issue, I didn't really know how to take it, and he didn't really go into a lot more of like what I should do or anything. So yeah, that's how I learned what Reiki is, and that's how I learned that I had like a throat chakra blockage issue. All the other chakras, he was like, they're fine, or I didn't notice anything or whatever, but not that one. So some strong energy trapped there. So we're gonna fast forward about like 8 years. These are all approximate timings, because I'm really bad with time and space. Both really, really, especially bad with space. I'm like, oh, it's like 2 miles away, and people are like, that's like 40 miles. I'm like, oh. So maybe 8 years later. I was at my doctor's office, and I was telling my doctor, you know, like, I think I'm just, like, getting really old. Like, shit. And again, I'm like 30 something. I'm not that old. I'm like, I don't know. I just, like, shit is, I'm, like, slow, you know, like, I suddenly don't want to do anything at all. I mean, I'm like a go get 'em kind of person. Like, I pop out of bed in the morning and, like, just start doing shit, and I'm, like, doing shit all day long, and that's how I've been my whole life. I'm very, ambitious and energetic. You know, I like exercise and all this. I just stopped doing all of it. I didn't care about my hobbies. I didn't do any of them. I didn't want to exercise. I just, like, later on, like, I was getting fatter, and I was just like, I think I'm just getting old. And I just want to sleep all the time. And she just laughed at me. She's like, no, you're like 30 something. Like, this is not, even if those things happen just because you were getting old, like, they don't happen right now. That's not what's happening to you. And I was like, well, fuck. I mean, I don't know what's happening to me. So she did all the blood tests and all the, like, you know, whatever, piss tests. I don't know what they do. I can't remember what they do. I don't go to the doctor very often. And neither should you. But she does all these tests. Nothing shows up. My thyroid is fine. Everything's fine. She's like, huh? And she's like, you know, maybe it's this other thing. And so she tests another aspect of my thyroid, which is not tested for in your normal sort of suite of tests that they do. And it's for something, I forget exactly what it's called, but it's like Hashis is what it's called colloquially. They're testing for Hashis. And so this is a rare autoimmune disease, and it's called Hashimoto's. And it's about your thyroid. Your thyroid, if you don't know, is like in your throat, basically, right next to your throat. It is your throat. It's the chakra, your thyroid gland. You have a gland that corresponds to every chakra, and your thyroid gland is the one that corresponds to your throat chakra. So, so she does the test, and your Hashi score, when you test for Hashis, which they don't do, you have to do it like a special request. But when they do, the normal range is 0 to 10. I hope I'm getting this right. I think it's 0 to 10. So, you know, you could have 10 and still be at, like, the normal range, but be high. Or you might even have, like, 15 or 20 and be like, well, maybe, but, like, whatever. Mine was 999. It was like that. And you know that means it actually was higher than that, but that's just, like, as high as the number could report. They didn't have a value for 100 or higher. So 990, it topped out the chart, which she had never seen. And she was like, oh, shit, like, you have Hashimoto's. So this is when I discovered I have Hashimoto's, this autoimmune disease where your thyroid is attacked by your immune system. And it has the same effects, maybe universally, at least for me, as hypothyroidism. So that's why I was sluggish and had given up on life and had gained weight without, you know, changing diet or exercise. And all these things made sense now because I had this thyroid issue. So it was a very, very high score. And yet, you know, they gave me some Hashis. They gave me the medicine that you take is like a synthetic thyroid hormone that is made from pig's thyroid or something. And, you know, it's like the lowest possible dose you can have because I respond really easily to all medications. I'm very sensitive. So that seemed to work. I seemed to get my energy back and, you know, have more pizzazz again, and not fully. I'm still not the same as I was for whatever reason, but things got better. So, so we're gonna jump back about 6 years before that point, a few years after the throat chakra Reiki session that I didn't know about. And I'm on a computer. This computer is pretty new. I've had it for a couple months, no more than that. No one in the world, as far as I know, has ever touched this computer but me. I mean, obviously someone made it, blah, blah, but like I got it brand new. I lived with one other person at the time. He had his own computer. We were both very specific about our computers. We didn't touch each other's computers or use them. And I didn't travel, no one else touched it. It was just mine. And, you know, you have, like, your computer has. If you're me and you have given up on trying to stop the NSA or whoever, CIA, from knowing all your information online because you realize they're just going to do it anyway. You have your computer store all your shit, all your passwords and whatever. And I shouldn't even be saying this, should I? But I do. I'm that person. All my stuff is stored on there because I have not the best memory in the world. I'm going to pause right here. I'm going to go back because Chris is making a good point. Say no to all medications. They all suck. True. I am actually actively working to get off of this thyroid medication that I'm taking. Because I know that through diet and exercise and sheer force of will and a few other things that I can, a lot of people have gotten off of it and cured or healed their Hashimoto's, and so I'm gonna do the same. And I encourage everyone to look at alternatives to their pharmaceuticals. That is a great idea. Anyway, back to the computer that I have and no one else has touched, and that has all my stuff stored in it and whatever. Just some random day, I'm like using it like I always do, and I open whatever. I think, just a browser. I was going to go to Gmail. And, you type in your email, you type in your password. If you have it stored, whatever. I did have it stored, but it didn't come up. So I was like, this just happens sometimes, whatever. I put my cursor in to type it in. And, sometimes once you just put your cursor in, it pops up your autofill suggestion, your pre-filled passwords and stuff. It popped up not my email address. And that was very surprising, as you can understand, because there should be no other email address anywhere on my computer. So the email address that it popped up was glastonbury7@gmail.com or yahoo.com or whatever at the time. I knew, but I don't remember now. I was like, well, that's really fucking weird. Like, and like, if you know me, you know that shit like this happens to me all the fucking time. Like, electronic shit is weird to me. My computer gets possessed by random shit that like experts can't even explain. Tech people who work in the industry, sometimes they can, sometimes it's shit like everyone has, and there's just like, I made a mistake or whatever. But I'm pretty computer savvy, but a lot of weird ass shit happens to me like all throughout my life. So I just assume this is one of those things that just happens to me all of a sudden. So Glastonbury 7 at whatever, and I'm just like, this is just so fucking weird though. Like, what the fuck is Glastonbury? What the fuck is Glastonbury 7? Why is it on my computer? Why did it pop up right now out of all, like, did somebody touch my computer since last night or whatever? Like, since yesterday, no one did. No one's here. So what happened? So I email this email because I'm like, well, this is like, maybe it's one of those fucking things. Maybe I'm supposed to talk to this person who has this email address, and this is fate being like, email this person. So I emailed them. I have never received a response. Sadly. Sadly, I have never received a response. But like, now I'm just like swarmed with this feeling, this like overwhelming feeling, like, well, I have to figure out why this happened. Like, what does this fucking email mean? Or what is it from? Or, like, what's going on? Chad Clemens has seen Glastonbury 7 before. Well, you may have seen it for the reasons I'm about to explain, which are interesting, and maybe not. And if anybody out there is Glastonbury 7 or whatever, like, let's chat. Maybe that's interesting as fuck. But if you are Glastonbury 7 at whatever.com, just email me and say, hey, I'm that crazy ghost that emailed you or whatever, or like got into your computer all those years ago. But yeah, it feels like something really important is connected to this, maybe just because it's a weird occurrence in general, and who knows, maybe that's all there is to it. But they never ever emailed back. So anyhow, let's fast forward again. We're just jumping around in time here. It's just randomly. Right before the hashies are discovered, right before we discover that my hashi score is 999, I was writing my first book that you can buy right now on sale for $10 if you go to my site and purchase it through the shop. Or if you want to PayPal me directly, I'll send it to you too. You can do that too. It's up to you. But I'm writing my first novel. It has to do with these energetic centers of the whole planet, sort of like a chakra system of the planet. That's one of the aspects of the story. And, these energetic centers on the planet, they either like are releasing energy or taking in energy, or both, depending on what's going on and that time period and what humanity is doing as well. And this is happening over vast aeons of time, obviously. So I'm researching some things connected with that. because I don't, if you've heard me talk about my book before, it's like, you know, the shit would just come to me and I would just write it, but I wouldn't always know what I was talking about. So I sometimes have to go research to fill in my, you know, missing knowledge to be able to write about it appropriately and not sound like an idiot. So I'm researching this, and I find out that other people actually think there are chakras on the planet. And I'm like, oh, well, how fantastic. Like, perhaps the places where people think there are chakras could fit into the way that it seems to be happening in my book, and maybe they're the same sort of system and whatever. And so I'm looking into that, and I find out that people have actually mapped out where they think each chakra is as far as it would relate to our body, like the root chakra and the navel and the sacral and the crown, all of it. And so there is a throat chakra on the planet, and guess where it is? I bet you can guess. Somebody just said it in the chat, not as a guess. It's in Glastonbury. So this is the second time in my life I've ever heard of Glastonbury, and I'm like, no, maybe this is the first. No, yeah, this is the second because it's after the first. So second time in my life I've ever heard of Glastonbury. But of course I'm instantly like, dude, that's that fucking place from the fucking email like that I never solved like years ago. Glastonbury is a real place in England, and it's the throat chakra of the world. Chris is saying in the chat, people who have thyroid issues are usually affected with throat chakra issues, I'm guessing you mean. Or did I already say that? I did not already say that. I implied it by saying that, you know, my Hashimoto's is in the throat chakra center. But yeah, it is interesting that this energetic, you know, blockage or energy issue that he had sensed all those years ago, many years later, you know, possibly developed into, or at least is somehow connected to an actual issue with that gland physically. This all comes together. So yeah, the throat chakra of the world is in Glastonbury, which is where that email was, and it's the throat chakra of the world. Throat chakra obviously is now significant to me, so I'm like paying extra attention. At that point, though, I didn't even know I had Hashimoto's, but I did still remember, obviously, the Reiki session and the throat thing, and I'm like, weird, like Glastonbury, throat chakra of the world, my throat chakra's fucked up. This is all just, you know, kind of like connected and weird. So, Glastonbury is a very, very interesting place in the world in many, many ways. We could do a whole show on that too. But fast forward again 3 years. I kind of synchro-mystically, if you want to call it that, land in a group online, which many of you will be familiar with, of which I am super excited to find that there are people in the world who think critically about most things, and that they are, you know, gathering in this space. So I'm like there all the time, all of a sudden. No one in my regular life really cares about fringe topics or conspiracies, or if they do, it's like at a sort of shallow level, or it's like not very critical. It's they just kind of like buy all of it and don't even think. And I love people who think and ask questions, and this group was that. There was a bunch of people like that. So I was just like, was over the moon. I was like, this group is awesome. I love it. You guys are rad. And I was just in there every day, like pouring out my love because I was so into it. And you know, people seemed to respond to that, and people started asking like, oh, like let's make Lindsay an admin or a moderator or whatever. And so they did make me a moderator eventually, which I did not actually want, but I was cool with it, and I'm still cool with it. And it was cool. And through a very, you know, interesting sort of like alchemical, if you want to look at it that way, process, over time, the core people of this group are sort of like forced out of the main group. The group grew and grew, and it got intense and weird, as all groups do. Like humans, you know, we all push all of our issues out, no matter, as we're relating with each other, no matter what we want to believe about it. And so, you know, shit always gets kind of real. And at that point, it's like, if you look at it alchemically, you're burning away all the shit that isn't fucking like pure or whatever. And so it's just interesting that like this core group that kind of made the group what it was got sort of pushed out. I got actually like, there was like a coup, and I got like removed and kicked out. So if any of you know what I'm talking about now and didn't before, now you remember. It was a very strange, very dramatic set of experiences. But conveniently, the core group had already had a sort of backup group made, and so we were in that group together. And I made that group, and we sort of like harbored ourselves there. We didn't know that that was all coming, but it did come. And so now some people are in both groups, but a lot of the core people are just in the backup group, which is now kind of our main group. It's cool. It's like, if you don't know Eyes Open as the group on Facebook, it's a pretty rad group of people who really are very open-minded and thinking very critically. But more important than that, there's an actual community of people there that does care about each other and supports each other, which is an amazing thing to find online, I think. So it's an awesome place to be. So there was another sort of leader in the group, and him and I sort of like intertwined for a time of like really intense synchronicity over and over again. Like every day we would have a synchronicity, and it wasn't like a romantic or a sexual thing. It was just, we just were, I think, sharing information and coming to understandings, and sort of, I like to describe it as we were like translating, yes, people in the chat know what I'm talking about, but I don't want to say it because it doesn't really matter, but yes, that group. But anyway, me and this person were having this like sort of translation of like cosmic information coming through us in the series of these like crazy synchronicities that were just happening over and over again. Like it was really intense, and that's its own story. But we taught each other a lot, I think, about the secrets of the universe in this exchange, which was really critical, I think, for both of us in very different ways. But one of the exchanges, one of the many, many, many synchronicities that we had to do with the Vesica Pisces, which I had never heard of, but have seen, and you've seen it too. It's when those two circles, you know, come together, and the point where their sort of waves converge makes like the perfect like pointed oval. You know, you can go look for Vesica Pisces, you know what I'm talking about. I had never heard the name before, but he was trying to describe it to me without like pictures, which is hard to do, like I just tried to do. And then I shared something to him from a different page, Nassim Haramein, which is totally unrelated in my mind, but it was a picture of the Vesica Pisces, like right as he was trying to explain it to me. He's like, well, that's it. That was the thing. And I was like, what was the thing? He's like, the thing you just shared. I'm like, what is it? He's like, that's the thing I was trying to describe. I was like, how? How is the thing you're trying to describe the thing I just shared with you? So it was just weird. And I just got like caught up in this Vesica Pisces thing. I was like, what the fuck is the Vesica Pisces all about? And so I'm investigating this shape. And somehow, through investigating that shape, you know, you're just like online, like you look it up, and then you click on a thing that takes you to another thing about it, and then another thing about it, and I end up on a page that's all about Glastonbury tour. And I'm like, here's fucking Glastonbury again. Why is this fucking shape? Why is this like place following me throughout my life? It's the throat chakra of the world. At very strange times in my life, in very strange ways, it just seems to like pop up like, hey, I'm Glastonbury tour. So I'm like, okay, dude, like what the fuck is Glastonbury tour all about? Glastonbury itself is a city and maybe a region or whatever, but Glastonbury tour is a specific ancient space that is just outside of the, I think, city or region or whatever. It's like, you know, out in the countryside, and it's like a hill. It's a very trippy place. So here's that throat chakra again calling to me. So I have to know, like, why is Glastonbury calling to me, and why the throat in my life? Why is the throat fucked up? What the fuck is going on with the throat and me? So I'm searching again more. I'm trying to figure this out, and I learned that the tour somehow, the like actual Glastonbury tour, the hill, the sacred space, the sacred place, is representative of course, the Vesica Pisces, and it represents the union of masculine and feminine, which is another theme that follows me all throughout my life. So I'm like, well, now it's all like coming together, like the union of the masculine and feminine, the Vesica Pisces, and the fucking Glastonbury, and the throat chakra, and it's just like all coming together. And you know, it's interesting that in a ritual at Glastonbury tour, if you were doing it like they think, at least, or like I read at least, that you are supposed to do the ritual of Glastonbury tour. I don't have a better name for it, but there is a ritual, and if you are on the tour, there's like a long tower sort of at the middle, at the center, at the top of the hill, and there's a walkway, and if you walk all the way around, you end up circling it 7 times before you arrive at the top. 7 times you circle Glastonbury tour. And if you remember back to the email was Glastonbury 7. So when I read this, I'm like, fucking, how? How did that email pop up on my thing all those years ago, knowing that I'd be sitting here years later staring at this fucking ritual done at the throat chakra of the world where you circle the fucking thing 7 fucking times? It is a joy of life, Chad. It's absolutely a joy. I love things like, I love mysteries. I love how shit all fits together as though you fucking time traveled throughout your whole life to set it up for yourself to unravel. It's crazy. So, Vesca Pisces, male and female, right? It's like these two opposite waveforms, maybe not even opposite, but these two waveforms sort of equal and opposite, we could say, I guess, coming together and creating that interference pattern. And at the center of this interference pattern is that void space. It's like a vortex. And the way I think about this specific spot at the throat chakra is the sort of meeting of like 2 double Tauruses. It's like 4. If there's a quadruple Taurus, that's its void center. Is here. So you have a void there. This is my understanding. I'm not talking about reading this from a book or getting it from a, like, you know, saint or something. This is just like the understanding I'm piecing together throughout my own lived experience. You know, the Taurus is sort of this like universal energy motion representation, I guess. And some people feel like we have a Taurus of energy coming up and a Taurus of energy going down, but I feel like we also have one going right and one going left, or one going forward and one going back. Maybe there's 6. Maybe they all meet here at the, I don't know. Maybe there's 7. Maybe the void is the 7th. I don't know. You can toy around with that all you want. I'm not landed on a specific answer for that yet, but something in there is what's happening. So your throat chakra is like where these all meet, for me at least, you know, that's where the void is. Glastonbury apparently is where that exists in the real world, in the physical. So this is like the micro, and that's the macro. Both of them, I guess, have physical and spiritual sort of aspects of that void meeting point, because of course it would, because everything is both. And I just feel like then our voice, you know, as I was talking about earlier, if you have this sort of blockage there or issues there, that perhaps it's that you're not speaking your truth, or you're not propelling, you know, that waveform out into the world. And sound is a powerful transmitter of information, right? Sound is contains it's not just like the words you make with the sound or what matters. It's like the sound itself carries information. When you think about, like, you know, programming like water, like Emoto did, or various things like this, the sound can program it. Think about cymatics, right? Sound carries information in it. So I feel like this, coming from this void, these sound waves can actually propel amazing amounts of information and power into the world. I think our voice is the key to that. So I think, too, part of this unfolding is that we have to do that in complete balance of micro and macro. You know, like, here's mine and there's Glastonbury. They both are throat chakras, but they're very different levels of magnitude. I think we also have to do it in balance of feminine and masculine, just like Glastonbury Tour is a balance of feminine and masculine. I don't know if I went into how, but basically the tour, the hill and the tower are like they're very phallic, so they're the masculine, and then there's also a well, a sacred well that dips down into like the waters of life, and so that's the feminine, you know, in a perfect balance of masculine and feminine meeting at that void, you know, propelling that sound out, as above so below, micro and macro. This is like some sort of key to significant power that we all have. I believe that. I don't know it. It could be true, it could be not. My throat chakra obviously is not healed yet. It is healing though. You know, I was only diagnosed with Hashimoto's a few years ago. And so I've been on the medication for a few years, but I've only been trying to get off the medication for like a couple weeks. And so maybe it'll heal more and more, but I'm trying to heal it. So I sat down the other day to meditate, and I do crap. I forgot the word. Hemisync. I do hemisync meditations. Some people believe that these are fucking CIA and fucked up, like mind control and whatever. I use them. I have not had any adverse effects from them. I've had very profoundly positive effects from them, and I highly recommend them. I do recommend always, when I'm talking about these hemisync meditations, that you don't just go to YouTube and listen, because the sound is not the same, and these were created very specifically and very to the minute detail of like which sounds are in which ear at what timing, and like all this shit is scientifically like precise. So I do suggest that you either fork over the money and buy them, for I think they're really expensive though, but I have found the FLAC files as a pirate. If you go looking as a pirate, I think you can find them too. So go check out hemisync if you want. The reason why I don't think you should do YouTube is not only because the sound quality isn't as good and it's not actually as effective, but I also think that some negative shit can be placed in sound forms. Obviously, sound are very powerful, so I just think you could be careful. Anyway, I sat down to meditate with hemisync, as I haven't done in a really long time. And so part of the practice is you create like different tools for yourself and different practices in the sort of, astral, I guess if you want to say that. And I have an energy tool that I use. I create it, and then I can like heal different parts of my body physically, and as you do. And so I was creating my energy tool, and I shouldn't say I was creating it. I've created it. I have it. I was reforming it and remembering it so that I could use it in that moment. And I was going to use it on my throat chakra specifically because I was feeling extra bad thyroid juju. Like my shit was falling apart basically, physically and whatnot. So I was going to spend some time healing that and hoping that that could help. So I was, using it, sending healing energy into my thyroid. And I've done things like this pretty well, pretty many times. Pretty many times is not really a phrase, but you know what I meant. And suddenly I'm like somewhere else. I'm no longer just me, in the astral, like holding this energy wand to my throat and filling it with energy and holding it to my throat or whatever. I'm like in this pretty fucked up situation. If you have heard me talk about past lives before, you will know that they're never very pretty, and so I'm about to tell another fucked up one. So if you don't want to listen to horror, then don't listen for the next few minutes. But basically, what's up, Chrissy? Let's just take a pause before we get to the torture to give people to turn shit off if they don't want to hear it. We'll say what's up to Chrissy. I don't know if I said hi to you, Chad. I know I said your name or read one of your comments, but hello, Chad. What's up, Phoebe Kane? Phoebe, I'm glad you found eyes as well. What's up, Stephanie Martin? In the house. Got some people here tonight that I haven't seen yet. Gordon Hamill. Walking around 7 times seems to keep showing up. Interesting. I'm glad you're listening to this story then. Who knows what little bits will be put together in your head from listening to this. Hi, Stephanie Martin. I don't know if I said hi to you yet or not. This is how bad my memory is. I just like read through and I hope that I haven't said hi to people yet. What's up, Billy John? All kinds of people tonight. It's good to see you guys. Again, if you're on Facebook, I never read your comments almost ever because it never tells me that you did comment and it doesn't show up in live. But hop over to YouTube and say what's up to us. Yes, we are so thankful for that group. We're so thankful for that group. So, in this sudden, and let me point out if I didn't say it already, when I'm meditating like this, usually I don't normally just have these regressions or memories surface or whatever. But I believe that because I was working specifically on this throat chakra, blockage that I've had my whole life, that this is why this happened. So I blasted into this whatever space I was in. All of a sudden I was like maybe like an Asian man or something. It wasn't very clear. And I was being tortured. Super fun. Not super fun, really horrifying. But I like to try to stick with it and figure out why I'm having this come up and what it might be about. I don't want to reject it and rush away from it and lose whatever healing I could get from it. So I'm being tortured. They're cutting near my throat for the first time. I could tell I'd been being tortured for a long time. Now they're cutting on my throat, so I'm sure it was close to the end. And as I'm like sort of experiencing, I wasn't experiencing it, that's the thing, but it was just like other sort of memories I've had. So I just assumed that was me being tortured. And so what I think is me is being cut on the neck. I'm like, oh, this is why I have like throat issues, because I was, cut on my neck, which I've been cut on my neck in other lives. So, but that didn't occur to me. I just thought that must be it. And then as soon as I'm just like pretty sure that that's it, I jump into a body, which is much more like the other regressions I've had or memories that I've had. And now I am this other guy in the same space, but I'm actually the torturer. So I'm actually like cutting this guy's neck, which just, when I was looking at the other guy being tortured, it was all cerebral. I was like, oh, yep, that must be me, and that must be where my throat chakra issues come from, and this makes sense or whatever. But once you're actually in the body, experiencing it as yourself, like, I could still feel it. It's fucked up. Like, it was horrifying to believe about myself that I could torture somebody. Like, fucked up. Like, just beyond like, it was fucked up enough to think I was being tortured on. It was a lot more fucked up to be the torturer. For me, now. Maybe, whatever. So, I am now the torturer. The torturer is some white-seeming dude with, like, scruffy beard. This is me. I'm, like, a white dude with scruffy beard. It kind of jumps around, and it did this in other past life regressions, too, where, like, I was that person I was cutting. I'm like feeling him then and me now, like, as one. It's very confusing. And I just kind of get, it's like, you instantly, like, it's like it's you. It's like if you were just you now, like, your whole life, and you know how you feel and why you feel it, and it's exactly the same. It's like, I'm this guy, and I get why I torture people, but I also realize I'm, like, at this point in my life where, this is where it gets very strange. I'm at this point in my life where I realize that I don't think it's right to torture these people anymore. At some point I had been like behind the cause, whatever it was. I think this might be like Middle Ages time. I have no fucking clue. It seems like there's a lot of stone around me, like buildings and shit. I'm like in a city by like a river. And and this is the point where like half the people are like, wow, this bitch is fucking crazy. But but so I'm no longer behind the cause. I'm having this like crisis of like identity or whatever, where I'm like, I don't think I can torture people anymore. But this is like my job. Like, so this is like apparently not only how I'm supporting whoever, my family, my wife or something maybe, or kids, or like whoever relies on me. I don't really had like a clear picture of that, but it's also, I can tell that if I were to quit or stop, like, I'd probably be tortured, or I'd be thrown in jail, or I'd be killed, or like whatever they do to people who are like deserters, I guess, right? Or something. I could just tell that it would be like really, really bad for me. But I'm also like, for the first time in my life, aware that like, it's not cool to cut people's throats up and shit, like, I don't know how you go from doing that to realizing it's wrong, but apparently in that life I did that, which is still like hard for me to accept. But I've just like tortured so many people, so I'm also dealing with this like realization that all the people I've tortured is like fucking wrong. It's always been wrong. It's not like it just started being wrong. It's always been wrong. And so I'm like dealing with like the weight of that. Like, how do I deal with that? How do I like forgive myself? Or I can't quit. I can't forgive myself. So I'm just like getting trashed. Like, I have some kind of potent ass fucked up alcohol that I'm just like drunk as fuck, like rolling around in an alley, like crying. This is retarded. I'm like at like the depths of despair. So again, you're like, I'm like me now and me then. So I'm just like kind of caught up in all of that and realizing like where we're at as a person. But then I'm like kind of like come out of it and I'm like me now again. And I realize like that me, he, us, we are gonna kill ourselves. Like, he's gonna kill himself. And I kind of hate him. Like, I am, even when I am him, I hate me. And even when I'm me now, I like hate him. I'm like, you're fucked up. You fucking did all this shit. Like, this is horrifying. So, I'm just like, and then I'm him again. Anyway, I'm like, can tell, like, I'm going to throw myself in the water in this river and just drown. Like, I'm so drunk, I'll just drown. Or maybe I'll, like, whatever. I'm like thinking of ways to, like, die. You guys in the chat always crack me up. It just seems like there's no way out, right? So I just know, like, as myself now, him then, we, he, I, whatever, then, we did not know, we didn't realize there's, like, this spiritual, we're just starting to just barely glimpse, like, a spiritual reality, which would, you know, lead you to not want to torture people anymore. But, like, there's no concept of what might go wrong if you commit suicide. So he's just, like, gonna just straight up go for it. There's, like, literally no reason for him to live, for us to live, or whatever. But me now, I'm like, oh, fuck no. You cannot kill yourself, you weak fuck. Like, I don't think people who kill themselves are weak, but I'm, like, trying to, like, tough love him at first, and that is not working. It's like, it's not like I can talk to him, you know? And even though, like, I am him, I'm, like, not him now. So I, like, the best I could do was try to, like, push this understanding into him. It's like if you could imagine a ghost standing next to you, just, like, trying, can't talk to the person, but maybe you can, like, kind of push, like, a feeling towards them, or so, or, like, maybe the concept could sort of, like, settle into their mind if you, like, try hard enough. That's what it felt like. Like, I was just trying to, like, exude these ideas at him and hope that they, like, got through his drunkenness and his fucking shame and just, like, guilt, you know, and all of that suicidal bullshit, like, piercing through that. It was, like, impossible. I was like, I'm not going to be able to do this. Like, he's just going to kill himself. And I just knew, like, I just know when you kill yourself, you really fuck up your spiritual progression. And I know that time is, like, timey-wimey, slippery stuff, and it's not really linear. So I just knew, like, if he kills himself then, like, this kind of fucks me now, or it fucks us both. And our progress is, like, you know, stopped and set back however far. And so it's kind of selfish, but that's, like, part of the reason why I'm like, you can't kill yourself, dude. We can't give up, right? I'm like, we'll just keep repeating this over and over again. Like, you're going to end up at the same spot anyway. Like, I'm just trying to, like, push him into this, but he can't hear me because I'm just this energetic bundle, like, swirling around him, and he doesn't even know I'm there. So I literally, like, gathered, like, all the force I could, just like when I'm meditating and gathering my, like, energy tool. I kind of use these, like, same principles to, like, create this, like, pierce through, you know, this thing that could, like, pierce through all that shit. And so I kind of, like, hurl that into his, like right, you know, his crown chakra, or his head, his pineal gland, or whatever, and his heart, like, both. I'm just like, you can't kill yourself, motherfucker. I was like, we can do this. Like, I'm here, you're here. Like, we can't give up. Don't give up. You know, and I'm like, you matter. You're, like, everything you do matters. Like, not dying matters. I'm like, there's, you know, you can do what's right, even if it's really, really hard, even if it's impossible. Like, doing what's right and dying for it is better than killing yourself in this, like, pile of shame and drunkenness. I don't really know what happens, right? Because then I'm, like, kind of rush out of there and am coming back to here. But I have one, like, little last glimpse that maybe was a sign that he didn't kill himself. And that's of him, like, crying with some other woman. So I'm like, maybe that worked. Like, maybe he didn't kill himself because I was, you know, screaming astrally at him and begging him not to. I really don't know. I can't know. That was the only glimpse I got, and that was what I was left with. And so I hope that little, you know, momentary glimpse of him crying with this woman was him, like, going back and finding someone to help or whatever, and who fucking knows what happened to him after that. I'm sure it was horrifying. I don't really want to know. That was enough horror for one astral session. So I kind of feel success about it. When I try to, like, think about it and feel what might have happened, I kind of feel like he didn't kill himself. So that's the best I got. But there's this other random piece. So I brought that up because that all came from me working on my throat chakra. And, you know, I have to like wonder then, is the guy like, if it wasn't the cutting on the guy's throat, that's not enough to give yourself a throat. I mean, he cut on people's bodies and did all sorts of shit for who knows how long. So that wasn't the throat chakra damage. I wonder if the throat chakra damage from that life was that he wasn't speaking out against this shit that he had become a part of. And I'm hoping that because if he didn't kill himself, he would have had to, as he wouldn't have been able to live like that, you know, with that shame and that guilt and continuing that he did speak out and perhaps lost his life for it or was tortured himself or whatever. But, you know, just that speaking out against it might have been like a little bit of the key. So, my hope is that I effectively stopped myself from dying or killing myself in that way, and then effectively allowed myself to then speak at least a part of the truth, and that power has some fucking effect on my throat chakra today. Who knows? Seems to be, just given that that's how that came about, was me trying to heal energetically whatever blockage there was in there. Okay, so within a day of that happening, again, that was just a meditation session. Within a day of that happening, like seriously, 1 million fucking moths show up at my house. It's not just my house, it's the region I'm in. There's billions of fucking moths everywhere. I could show you a video, but it wouldn't look as fucked up as it does in real life. Like, you can't stand outside anywhere without moths flying. Anywhere you stood, there would be moths flying all around you and probably hitting you because they're disgusting fucking creatures. They're not. They're beautiful creatures. I just have an issue with moths. It's seriously like a plague, like of locusts. Like it's ridiculous. Even normal people, even people who don't have my issues, I like hate it and think it's fucked up. They're fucking everywhere and it's gross. They're all over the windows all the time. They're fucking everywhere. It's horrifying. You know, and they are my kryptonite. That's what my boyfriend said. It made me feel better because I'm like terrified of moths, and it's not rational at all. You know, I've like literally laughed in the face of fucking demons and you know, and into the like abyss of my own voids, and like gone into my own dark nights of the soul and come out the other side, and astrally traveled back in time to a point in time where I'm like torturing people and stop myself from killing. Like, none of that fucking scares me, but moths fucking, I cannot handle them. They're my kryptonite. Anytime they come near me, like if a moth comes towards me, if it came towards me right now, I would not be able to stop myself, as embarrassing as it would be, from screaming and like falling over and running out of the room in pure terror. Like, I have some fake ass screams that I might use if like something slightly scary happens, but like the scream that I produce when a moth comes near me it's like someone's gonna murder me. It's like they're gonna trap my soul and fucking murder me. There's no reason. It's not rational. It makes no sense. It is not a fear. It is an actual phobia. If you don't know what a phobia is, you're about to learn a little something about it. They're very rare, actually. Not many people have phobias, even though plenty of people will say, I have a phobia of blank. They just mean they have a very strong fear of something, which is actually pretty normal. Everybody has fears about things. You know, and even a strong fear is not a phobia. You know, for it to be a phobia, you basically it has to be irrational, like a moth coming at you. There's no reason a moth should scare you. You can fucking kill it. I know I can kill a moth. Like, it's so easy to do. I can think about it. Any other bug, a bee can fly up to my face and I'll just like push it away, you know? Like, it doesn't have anything to do with the actual level of danger that you might face. It's irrational. And so it has to be irrational. So if you're afraid of heights, or you're afraid of like guns, or you're afraid of, you know, dogs or whatever, like those are all that's a rational fear. If you're afraid of driving really fast, like that's a rational fear. Those are all things that can actually harm you. It has to be irrational, and it has to be uncontrollable. And fuck is mine uncontrollable. Like, I wish to God many times in my life that I would not have made such a fool of myself by like just crumbling in abject terror at a moth's approach, but I have, because I cannot control it. If I could control it, I would absolutely control it, and I would never ever react to a moth again. But I can't control it. They're always, also, the third criteria is that they're associated with a deep, deep trauma. So people with phobias almost exclusively have PTSD. I have CPTSD, as you know if you listen to me long enough, and this is, you know, some aspect of my multiple traumas has something to do with moths, and that's why they are my phobia. I usually don't tell people about this because I don't like the power that it gives them. Now, if you ever wanted to destroy me, you just throw a moth at my face, and I would just, you would win. Despite that I know that they can't hurt me and that I could kill 10 billion moths and not be harmed, still, I could sit outside right now and they could all just smash into me all over the place and that wouldn't fucking matter. I still could not actually do it. I'm not capable of that. I literally can't control it. It's automatic. So it's kind of funny for other people to watch. It would be. Funny for people to watch, but it's not funny for me. And what's really, really not funny is when 1 million of them show up at your house. It's not funny. I can laugh about it now because there's none around me right now. But when it's happening, I cannot laugh about it. I can only freak out. Even in normal life, every once in a while, I have to confront a moth, obviously, because they exist in the world. And I can after my initial freak out, and running and screaming, I can get a tool, usually a large tool, and I can try to find them and throw it. I can kind of do that. I sort of can manage some aspects of this phobia, but when I went outside the other day and didn't yet realize that there were 1 million moths around and 20 of them were suddenly coming at me, I lost my shit and I ran back inside and I ran into a fucking corner and I huddled into a ball in the fetal position and I cried for hours. I'm not even exaggerating, hours. I've never had this kind of a breakdown in response to moths before. I've never had 20 moths fly at my face before, so of course I hadn't. But I just lost it. That was the first time that has ever happened to me. This is within a day of doing that past life memory. But there was no way to get away from them. I've never had this situation where there's not only that many, but I can't get away. So even when I finally came out of my complete and utter breakdown, every window I look at, they're all over. So everywhere I look, it's coming back at me again and again and again. Johnny has been fantastic. Johnny has been killing moths left and right every time. There's not that many in the house, thank God. They creep in somehow, but there hasn't been that many of them. I'm worried now that I'm talking about them so much. They're around me, but I don't think there's any in this room at least. So, yeah, so there's thousands of moths at my house, and I had two complete and utter breakdowns, and it's not, it's hard to even explain unless you've had a real emotional complete breakdown and loss of sanity for a moment, but it pretty much fucks you up for a while. It's draining, it's debilitating for the time that it lasts, but it's also draining afterwards, and it also, I just feel like an idiot. I'm why am I so weak that I can't fucking deal with the fact that moths exist, I rationally get it and don't even care about them, but I can't. This thing, it just, I can't do it. So then I also was dealing with, all of those emotions afterwards. And then also this idea that well, how fucking long are they here? It turns out it could be 3 weeks. And I'm I can't leave the house for 3 weeks. I have become a person who can't leave the house for 3 weeks because bugs exist. It's very depressing. It's very frustrating, and it just makes you feel like you suck as a human. So what's interesting to me about moths is that at key junctures in my life, moths show up to teach me something, usually. And I've realized this after years and years of having this. I've had this phobia since I was pretty young, about 12 or 13. And I always, when I'm when I'm in a key juncture of transformation, basically, I will have this fucking confrontation with moths, and it's always in a situation that I can't just avoid them. I have to go through them, basically, or interact with them directly, basically, and confront them. or, you know, there's no one else that I can sort of like scream to come help me and take care of the problem for me. So, for example, one time I moved out the first time in my life into my own house without any other roommates in a city I had never lived in before, with no one else in the city that I even knew, and like no car or anything. So I'm like very alone in this place, and I just got moved in. The people who helped me had just left, so I'm alone for the first time ever, basically. And I'm like unpacking stuff, and I open this closet, and there's this moth that's like this fucking big, like it's the size of my face. And which I've never even seen a moth that big. And I'm just like, what? You know, I freak out and like run outside, and I sit outside smoking like 15 cigarettes in a row, trying to like figure out how I'm gonna like live in an apartment with a moth, especially one that big. And finally, I just had to be like, no, you just have to do it. I was like a Buddhist too. I'm like, you can't kill it. I have to like get it. I have to trap it. I have to release it and let it go. And I have to do that all by myself. And I did. And it took hours, but I did it. I was very proud of myself. So each time things like this happen, I tend to have moths come and kind of show me some sort of transformative aspect of myself. It's pretty empowering, really. So in a way, I love moths a lot. It's like the most lovingest, hatingest relationship I've ever had in my life. And I've learned from them basically that I am actually unstoppable, even when I'm terrified out of my wits. And that, you know, just like a moth should teach you, like no darkness can ever hold you, right? There's always a pinprick of light that you're flying towards at the very least, and you're always on your way out of that darkness. And I think that's a beautiful lesson as well. You can always find the light again. And another time I learned from moths that my soul and my mind have no barriers, and that they can travel anywhere, anytime. So I just tend to learn like really awesome lessons from moths. So much so that people who know me really, really deeply at like a soul level associate me with white moths. And think of me when they see white moths. So that's interesting that the object of my absolute uncontrollable terror is also some of the symbolism that is the most closely associated with me and my, you know, travels and transformations. So I'm kind of looking at these billions of moths around me right now, and I'm like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to learn from them? This is the first time, like I said, I've ever had this many moths around me in my life, and it's has driven me insane twice already. So we'll see what I'm supposed to learn from this. I'm sure there's a huge lesson, but it might be the biggest one yet, as far as I can tell. And did this moth phobia come not from the multiple traumas I've had in this life, you know, that gave me PTSD, but did it come from trauma in a past life? Because a lot of our issues, physical, mental, and spiritual, can come from those past life traumas that are unresolved. So now I'm wondering, like, does this moth thing not even come from this life? And is that part of why I've never been able to figure out, like, what the fuck happened? How did my brain fixate on moths as the source of my phobia? Usually you can kind of like connect it to one of your traumas, like, oh, it makes sense why I have this phobia, because that one time, like, that moth ate my face off or whatever. That nothing like that ever happened. I don't know why I would associate it with moths, but maybe it came from another life. And maybe, I don't know, this is just one of the many fleeting thoughts I've had this week, is that maybe that's where the moth thing comes from. And I was very lucky. I posted on Facebook, like, you know, when you have an actual real phobia, it's a fucking nightmare, which is kind of a vague thing to post on Facebook, but I was kind of in the depths of despair when I posted that. And this beautiful soul who's been on the show twice now and will be here again on Tuesday to talk actually with Andrew Kaufman, which that mashup should be pretty rad. I hope you all stick around for that on Tuesday. But Phoenix Aurelius reached out to me, and he was like, hey, you know, I do, you know, the IDF, the stands for intrinsic data field, the radionics basically that he does. He's like, I can, you know, try and help if you just give me some information and whatever. And I was like, oh my God, because in my life I've worked with this trauma and these phobias for years and years, and I thought I have done every single thing that you could possibly do to deal with these things, but it turns out you can do IDF, and I would have never thought of that. So very lucky and blessed that Phoenix is such a skilled practitioner, and that he saw it, and that he reached out, and that he had time to sort of throw me in last minute, which is not very normal for him. And so that was very, very nice that I got this sort of energy work from afar. And it's interesting. So, and that helped a lot, by the way. If you are someone suffering and you've kind of done all the traditional like Jungian psychotherapy and EMDR and all the PTSD therapies and stuff, and you're still dealing with this like I am, maybe you can reach out and do some IDF with Phoenix Aurelius. Definitely worth a try. And I'm sure he also has some suggestions eventually of some of his, spagyrics medicine that I might be able to try too, which will be cool. But it was very effective. I had a lot of calm return to me and a lot of positive mental attitude returned to me, lifted me out of the sort of depths of despair. And obviously it's not like cured my phobia as far as I can tell. There's been a few moths in the house since then and I've still freaked out, but I at least like rose out of that, and I at least can look out the window and see them swarming everywhere and not be like fucking losing my mind by noticing that. So it has helped a lot. But it was interesting too that in his analysis he suggested, he's like, it could be that this trauma comes from a past life or in between lives. And I was like, interesting, because I had that thought actually, and then I had also just had that past life memory, and so I'm like, do these things connect or what? And then after thinking that, if you've listened to some of my other talks about trauma and past lives, you may know that in this life, I was tortured as a child by a dentist who seemed to love watching me be in intense and crazy amounts of pain. And I think this is my root trauma. When you have PTSD or especially CPTSD, there's usually a root trauma. It's usually when you're very young, and all the other traumas sort of compact on top of that. But I was probably 6 or 7 or so, 8 maybe, I don't know, 5. I was pretty young. And this dentist did not use Novocaine and drilled on me and did all kinds of work. And I just so happened to have like all the cavities and every single tooth was a cavity, and fucking, I didn't obviously, right? But like nobody knew that at the time. But he just kept wanting me to come back for more. So I had cavity work done on nearly every single tooth, and I never had Novocaine, and I was always in pain. And I just thought that's why people hate the dentist. But no, that's actually a torturing fucking asshole who likes the pain of children. So sorry to spring that on you suddenly if you weren't prepared for that. It's a horrifying story, but the point is, it just hit me that I was tortured in this life. I was a torturer in that life. Like, I don't want to say I deserve that, but it is interesting that I switched places from torturer to tortured. It just makes a weird kind of cosmic sense. It just struck me, and now it's like sits with me, and I just feel that it is some sort of balance that is perhaps necessary, but very interesting at the very least. Karma, you could say. Yes. I don't think any child deserves to be harmed. And yet, if there is some sort of balance that has to be, whatever you inflict, you have to experience or something, then I'm kind of glad I got it over with. So then I wonder, like, I don't know, and I can't forgive that guy for torturing me like that. Like, I don't know how to do that, but I guess I can just see this like strangely intricate pattern that seems to traverse like all of time and leaves no detail untouched. And there's something strangely beautiful in that, as fucked up as those experiences are. And I wonder too, so did that guy, as I was the torturer in that past life, did he have some fucked up experience with Moz? And perhaps it's connected with his choice to stand up and not be part of whatever, campaign or side he was torturing for, or whatever, part of his speaking out against that, part of using his throat chakra to be true to himself, Did moths have some, you know, maybe like as he was dying, like a bunch of moths came by or something. I don't know what happened, but maybe that's where it comes from, and that's all I can guess. No, I don't think I deserved that at all. I don't know. I just see the balance. The balance in itself is a weird kind of beauty. I don't want it. I wish it would happen to no one ever. But it's just interesting that perhaps I was a torturer, and I definitely was tortured here. But yeah, maybe Moss had something to do with his death, his trauma, whatever happened to him after that. And maybe that is what got stuck, you know, and maybe that transferred on to this life, and maybe that's where the moth things come from. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just like pulling fucking straws out at this point. I don't know, but it's just weird how all these things like happen in synchronicity and in tandem with each other. And you know, again, the moth showed up within a day of that past life regression, and I don't really tend to think that things happen by coincidence. So it's an interesting synchronicity. And then I wonder how this all connects with the throat chakra of the world and Glastonbury 7, and, you know, Glastonbury and the masculine and feminine, you know, that combine there, and this abyss, you know, that's in our throats. And is there an abyss at that place in Glastonbury? And if so, how do we heal whatever blockages or traumas are stopping those throat chakras, both in ourselves and, you know, in the world, at the throat chakra of the world? How do we heal them and help them kind of open to emit whatever waveforms need to come out to heal all of whatever trauma has happened in the past? All of this is all still tied up in my mind because I don't have a conclusion yet. I just still have the mystery of all these pieces that are, you know, that come together. But it is interesting that I'm at a place in my life where I speak my truth more than I ever have, and more openly than I ever have, and that all of this is sort of coming together too. And I definitely want to go to Glastonbury. I want to go stand on Glastonbury Tor. I want to walk around, you know, the tour itself 7 times. And I want to sort of meditate there on that Vesica Pisces, the 2 sound forms coming together and creating that void, or perhaps empowering that void. And I think that would be a beautiful thing. And I think it would heal, because I think that actually, you know, that we like time travel to heal ourselves. And I talk about time travel a lot, and people are like, it's not possible. I'm like, oh, it's possible. I've done it, right? Like, I jumped back to those lives. That's time travel. I'm not saying it's possible that we physically take ourselves now and place ourselves back then. Maybe that's possible, maybe it's not. I don't pretend to know. But I know time travel in essence is possible, and that we do it all the time. And that we do it to heal ourselves. And we have to heal, I think, every juncture of the sort of web that we've created all throughout time, the sort of karmic web, and at every point along the way, so that we can bring our sort of true power to bear, you know, because this abyss in our throats is lies exactly this is another reason why I think of it as an abyss. If you put the tree of life over the body, the human body, the traditional tree of life over the human body, the abyss in the tree of life is exactly over your throat chakra. It's not an accident. So there's something there that needs healing, I think, for all of us, all throughout time, all throughout space, on a planetary level and on a, you know, specific micro level for each of us. And I think those two things are intertwined deeply and beyond measure. And so this is yet another way that we all have a responsibility to heal ourselves, in order that everything in the universe can also be healed and used at its, you know, utmost abilities and capabilities to create exactly what it is supposed to create. You affect that level as you do your own inner work. The outer work is done as well. So I have this feeling that most people on the planet have throat chakra blockages, and if we were all using our voices to propel sound waves into being, that were empowered and balanced, you know, at all levels, that we would sort of fill or traverse, or at least empower that abyss to be not an abyss, not an empty void, but filled with creative energy. And so I think that is how it all connects. And I hope that we can bring our full power to bear and propel our voice into the quadruple or sextuple Taurus's meeting point of convergence in that Vesca Pisces of masculine and feminine balance, to where all 4 dimensions of our bodies unite and we can transform the entire universe in doing so, past, present, and future, right? So let's all practice that. Let's use our voices. If you want to practice the meditation where you create a healing energy tool of whatever shape you like, and you charge it with the, you know, cosmic energy of goodness, whatever that is to you, God or love or whatever, and you want to practice healing your various different chakras or body parts, then maybe that could be part of it. Or maybe you just ask yourself, like, is my voice blocked in any way? Do I not speak my truth in any way? Then maybe I should start to do that and see how I can do it more and more. You empower yourself, you empower others, and you heal yourself and others in doing it. And if you have any keys or clues that this made you think of as far as Glastonbury and throat chakras in the world and moths and whatever, let me know. I would love to hear your ideas. Drop it in the comments or whatever. Until you have balanced all of the energies of yourself and empowered yourself to speak your truth always at every level, macro and micro, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah.
It's a one-on-one lesson, so do your homework. Make your dome hurt while up on earth. My bones are blessed from holy dirt. Vibes manifested to words that told me search for verbs and adjectives to describe birth. Worth more than one can speak, while the tongue feeds a weak, a sour taste in your mouth, bittersweet. Words can also kill you when you sleep. Mind condition, low frequencies while the subconscious mind listens. I can tell a vision filled with lies, disguised as truth, and spread it like the word to the youth. Watch the tube. A place where the God gets food is sorcery. To recreate the God forgery does more than meets the eye. Not too many know. Just hear me flow like the eye of Horus Henio. Yeah, not ready to leave until we believe we're free to go. You hear me, yo?
Sculpted from the ether, the material will eat ya. Stuck on this plane, lanes use jet fuel to greet ya. The dimensional 3 ain't meeting me on top of the 4th. Didn't climb Jacob's ladder to squab with a sword. Forged with Yggdrasil, branched down. Try quiet your lamps now. Ascension past the matter that they slam out they damn mouths. We ain't on land now, but they over understand. Sacrificing wisdom, hoarding dumber, kosher, wicked hands. Putting faith in worthless worship of the mortals. Artificial portals, mass ingestion of the black goo, bioengineered morsels. Conversing with machine elves, bypassing maggots. They stuck on Android screens now. I'm scrolling emerald tablets. Moloch living lavish, off the backs of the savage. Them clasped hands at the Sabbath. Smack of energy damage. They done twisted the tongues, but nanotech in the lungs. The awakening's begun. All they really can do is fucking
run.